A small van. That's Sigits. National parks.
Travel photos that made everything look like a dream. From the outside, this story first looked like a journey of youth and freedom.
Isn't this view incredible?
It's even better than the photos.
Best trip ever.
Stopping in places with beautiful scenery.
Isn't this just the best trip ever, Brian?
It's perfect, Gabby. Look at that view.
Wow.
To the stars and back.
Oh, I could just stay here forever. It's so beautiful.
Long roads. Moments that seemed perfect.
To many people watching, it looked like the kind of life anyone might dream of.
Just two young people, one vehicle, and all of America ahead of them.
Not through one single obvious event, but through small pieces.
You need to stop. Just get in.
No, leave me alone. I don't want to.
Just get in the damn car. Please, I can't.
License and registration, please.
Sorry, we were just getting some gas.
Sir, I need to see your documents.
We understand.
Where was Gabby?
Where is Gabby? We haven't heard from her in days.
It's not like her to go off the grid.
I'm so scared. Please call us back.
But then, it spread across the entire country.
Millions of people began following the case.
Look at this view.
That's exactly what I want.
Let's watch this one.
Every location on the map. A dream road trip that ended in tragedy. The Gabby Petito case, a search for answers.
What made this case so haunting was the contrast.
On one side was the image of a young woman living her dream. I always thought she'd find her adventure.
She had a family.
She had unfinished plans.
She wanted to record her life.
And from the moment her family could no longer reach Gabby, everything began to change.
The van became a clue. Social media posts became data. Travel locations became investigation points.
And what really happened on that road trip across America?
This is gonna be the best trip ever. I know, right? It feels like a dream.
Isn't this view amazing?
Absolutely stunning.
I never want to leave.
The investigation.
Gabby Petito Reference Guide. Character profiles. Places of interest. Timeline.
A massive search.
And the question that kept millions of people from looking away.
How did a love story become a case that shocked America?
Chapter 2, Thonin Sand, The First Signs. But behind the travel images, tension was beginning to surface. One of the most important early moments happened in Moab, Utah.
On August 12, 2021, police stopped the van after a reported incident involving the couple.
The view from here is incredible. It really is. Did you lock up? Yep, all set. I saw her last around this ridge.
Were there any other vehicles?
Viewers saw a very different side of the road trip.
I saw her that day. She looked lost.
Did she say where she was going?
She just said she needed to get away, fast.
Can you walk us through what happened here?
We were arguing about the van.
And what were you trying to understand?
The situation was complicated.
It was not the perfect road trip image people had seen online.
The adventure is just beginning. Couldn't be happier. But sometimes, the stories we tell don't match the truth.
No, you don't understand. Get away from me. Just listen.
All right, calm down. Let's separate.
It showed that something behind the scenes was not right.
No one watching that moment later could ignore how important it became. After the police stop, the journey continued.
The van kept moving across the American West. The scenery remained beautiful.
The posts still looked calm.
But Gabby's family began to worry.
Communication became strange.
Some messages did not sound like Gabby to her family.
The people closest to her felt something had changed.
The road trip had become harder to understand. And then there was the private fear growing behind it.
At the center of it all was the van. It had been their home on the road. But later, it would become one of the most important clues. This was the first major shift in the story. The dream road trip no longer looked simple. Every new location raised more questions. The Moab police stop became one of those questions. What did it reveal?
And where did the road lead after that?
Soon, the focus would move toward Wyoming. toward national parks. Toward remote campsites. And toward the place where the search for Gabby would become urgent.
Because soon, Gabby's family would no longer be asking if something was wrong.
Where is the traveler?
Then the road trip entered its most frightening chapter. At first, it was confusion.
Maybe the signal was bad.
Maybe they were in a remote area.
But as time passed, worry grew. She had been moving from state to state in the white van. But suddenly, the story no longer made sense.
The van came back.
But Gabby did not.
Her family reported her missing.
On September 11, 2021, Gabby Petito was officially reported missing.
The public needs your help. Please come forward with any information you may have.
National news coverage of the ongoing search. The investigation spans across Florida and Wyoming.
Soon, people across the country were asking the same question.
Where is Gabby?
They studied the route.
And they studied the van.
Every small detail suddenly felt important.
Why had he come home without her?
The Gabby Petito case. A reference guide.
At that point, the public had more questions than answers. And law enforcement began working the case. The FBI would soon become involved. The search stretched across states. Florida mattered because Brian had returned there. Wyoming mattered because Gabby may have last been in that region. The road trip had become a search route. The van was no longer just a vehicle.
The trip was no longer just a trip.
It was now a missing person investigation.
Every unanswered call mattered. Every possible location mattered. And every clue pointed the search toward the west. Toward Wyoming. Toward remote campsites. Toward the place where the search would soon become national news.
The disappearance was no longer a private family fear.
It had become a case watched by the entire country.
Where did the road end?
Where did the road end? The answer would soon lead investigators into Wyoming.
The journey had crossed beautiful places, remote roads, and national park areas.
One area became especially important.
The disappearance was no longer a private family fear.
And the nearby Bridger-Teton National Forest. It was a place filled with open land, trees, dirt roads, and remote campsites. For investigators, every campsite mattered. They had to rebuild where the van had been.
They had to rebuild the final days of the trip.
They had to connect messages, locations, sightings, and movement.
The search for Gabby Petito has entered a new phase, covering a vast area.
Authorities are focusing on specific coordinates provided by new evidence.
Analyzing the timeline now. Check the landscape photos. Could there be a trail? Focus on the notebook and maps. It must be there.
And that van would become the focus of a massive investigation. Spread Creek became a key location.
It was remote.
And far from the busy world that had followed the case online. For investigators, that video helped narrow the focus. The search moved closer to that area. Search teams began looking through difficult terrain. Search markers line the path, indicating investigative activity.
Open land.
Every piece of ground had to be checked carefully. The question was no longer only where Gabby had gone. It was whether this remote place held the answer.
But now, the search for her had moved into the wilderness.
The case had become national news.
But for her family, it was not a news story.
It was their daughter.
Someone they were desperate to bring home.
The search patterns intersect here.
Review the timelines on this point.
We have to expand the perimeter.
The route.
The messages.
The van sighting.
All of it kept pointing back toward Wyoming.
Toward a quiet place near Spread Creek. A place that looked peaceful from a distance.
But it was about to become the center of the investigation.
Search teams moved in.
The country waited. And soon, investigators would find the answer everyone had been afraid of. Then came the moment everyone had feared. Search teams had focused on the remote area near Spread Creek.
Keep your eyes peeled and stick together. Copy that. Check this area to the left.
The area was quiet, open, and remote. Every section had to be checked.
This is Chief Chap, search me for what you're doing.
The van sighting had helped narrow the search.
That one piece of travel footage became a major clue.
It pointed investigators toward the place they needed to search. And there, in Wyoming, the search took a tragic turn. Human remains were found.
Across America, people who had followed the case reacted with shock and sadness.
But the investigation was not finished. Attention turned back to Florida. Then, Brian disappeared. His family reported that they did not know where he was. The search for Brian Laundrie moved toward the Carlton Reserve. It was a huge and difficult area to search. Search teams looked through trails, water, brush, and thick terrain. Helicopters searched from above. Officers searched on the ground.
For days, the public watched the search unfold. This area of the Florida Reserve remains a primary focus in the investigation.
The case now had two searches in the public eye.
Why did he return alone? What happened in Wyoming? And where was he now?
Days passed.
The search area remained difficult.
The country kept watching.
Gabby's death had been confirmed, but the person many believed had answers was missing.
Then, the search focused near the Myakkahatchee Creek area.
The search team is focusing on the marshy area near the path.
Grid pattern 1-5, moving east now.
Another discovery was about to change the case again.
Personal items connected to Brian were found. Investigators then found human remains in the area.
Authorities later confirmed the identity of the individual involved in the investigation. The manhunt was over. But the mystery was not. Because among the items recovered, there was a notebook. And that notebook would become one of the final pieces of the case.
What did Brian write?
And for investigators, it was one of the final pieces left to examine.
Later, the FBI released a final investigative update. According to that update, written statements in the notebook claimed responsibility for Gabby Petito's death.
For many people, that was the closest thing to an answer.
The person many had been searching for was gone. The road from Wyoming to Florida had reached its final point. The van had been found. Gabby had been found. And the notebook had given investigators one final statement. But even with that, the story still felt painfully incomplete.
Because one question still remained. Why did a road trip that looked so beautiful end in tragedy?
That contrast is what made the case so unforgettable.
They saw the videos.
Then she was gone.
They were watching a search. Eventually, the investigation reached its conclusion. The FBI said they did not identify anyone other than Brian Laundrie as directly involved in Gabby's death. With that, the federal investigation closed. But a legal ending is not always an emotional ending.
It did not end with a document. It did not bring back the future she lost.
It did not finish the journey she had planned.
She was a daughter. You are loved and missed.
I dream of seeing the world, exploring every corner, finding beauty in every sunrise.
A person whose story began with hope.
But ended in loss. The case of Gabby Petito showed how quickly a public dream can hide private danger. It showed how silence can become the first warning.
And it showed how one road trip could become a case that millions would never forget.
A dream road trip.
A national search. And one question that still echoes.
How did a dream become a tragedy?